Welcome to a new episode of FemFlex Friday. I am Alina Popa, and today, together with my co-host, Whitney Jones, we're going to bring you a very, very interesting topic. Whitney, are we ready to share this with our audience?
Yes. Who do we have, Alina? Who's joining us today?
Well, first to start with, we have this amazing topic of athletes promotion back in the day, right, in the beginning of the sport, as opposed to nowadays, right, with all the social media present in our lives.
And how things are totally different.
Totally different. And we have two amazing women that can show us how it was done, right?
Oh, yes. Yes, we have Linda Murray, 8-time Miss Olympia, who's joining us and has tons of knowledge. And I know it wasn't as easy for you as it is now for so many of us athletes. So I'm really intrigued to hear everything that you have to say. And then, of course, we have current Miss Bikini Olympia, Janet, who's joining us as well. So how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing fabulous.
I'm doing wonderful. It's so great to see all of you. You guys are looking amazing and so beautiful and fresh.
Well, thanks. Gosh, we'll just bring you around whenever we're having bad days to make us feel good.
Just to start the topic and just go back a little bit to see on a time frame, Linda, right? When did you start competing, and when did you have your first contract, right, with the Weider or any other publications to kind of get a feeling of how the promotion, the athletes promotion, was done back in the day?
Yeah, I first started competing in 1984, four NPC shows in Michigan. And I turned pro in 1989. My first contract arrived in 1990 after winning the Miss Olympia. That was my first pro appearance. Actually, it was the Miss Olympia.
That was your pro debut.
That was my pro debut.
I did not
Miss
know
Olympia.
that.
I didn't know that either.
And you won like it was nothing. Easy peasy.
Yeah, I won, man. It was great. It was for me as well. It was like not a surprise, because I think with all of us as athletes, we go to win, but it was really overwhelming because I go from no one knowing me to winning the world title. And so, yeah, it was great experience, but challenging.
And you said that's where you got your first contract. So which contract was that for?
Actually, my first contract was with Weider Health and Fitness, with Joe Weider. And that was the first. And all within that same year, that same time period, I had a contract with Hammer Strength Equipment Company. And I also had the third contract was with Powerhouse Gym International.
Wow. So all these, the contracts, the Powerhouse and the Hammer Strength, that's something that you have scored on your own, or did you have an agent? Or did it come through the Weider contract? How was it structured back then?
Yeah, great question. I actually had a manager.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I had a manager, and it was actually great because he was connected. He was within the sport. And I think when we talk about managers, people always say, do I need a manager? Do I need an agent? And that was something I didn't really know. But because I met, it's like for some reason his name escapes me, but I know his name. Trust me, it'll come to me. Steve Carroll. And Steve Carroll was very well connected. He ran the Nationals, and because he understood the industry, it was easy for him to negotiate, and that's how I got those actually 3 contracts.
Did you search for him, or did he approach you? How did you even become aware of the way the promotion works at that time?
Great question. After I competed in, the Junior Nationals first, and then it was the North American. So as an amateur, I I was connected in the sense that I just had experience from being a cheerleader and interacting, engaging with the people that run the sport. And so what I did is after I won the junior nationals, I sent him a card. He was the promoter, and thanked him for putting on such a great show. And that was in 1989. And so when I won the Olympia in 1990, we basically had a relationship. And that was on my own. So I reached out to him, not really knowing anything about the industry.
Okay.
But it was just, to me, it was just the cordial thing to do is to reach out to the promoter and say, thank you for putting on a great show. And that's how it began.
Now, Linda, with those contracts, as I know so much has changed in this day and age, back then in 1990, when you just won your title, were you able to make a living off of these contracts that you received, or was this just kind of some additional buffer money to help kind of pay for, any of your hobbies or vacations, or was this something that you were able to do and make a living off of it?
Yeah, actually, it changed my life and as far as my finances. And overnight, I went from being a personal trainer to making over $250,000 per year. It changed overnight. I bought a house, I bought a BMW. I had, things it changed drastically just from those three contracts.
I love it.
Wow.
From 3 contracts.
Yeah, from 3 because it doesn't seem like it's that way at all these days, or it's just rare. So that's pretty impressive.
And talking about these days, Janet, how about you? Do you have an agent? Do you have a manager right now at this point? Or have you had it for a longer time to manage your professional career?
So in the beginning, actually, when I first got into the sport, back in 2013, I actually competed in the Flex Bikini Model Search.
Oh, okay.
It was like the first fitness-related anything that I ever did. And it was a part of the Olympia. It wasn't competing in the Olympia, but it was part of the show. And I ended up winning out of like 70 girls from all over the world. And this was like my first real presence in front of, showing off with fitness, like anything to do with fitness. So for me, I was very nervous, but I was ready to embrace it. And after winning that show, that earned me a contract with the current owners. Back then was AMI. So I had 1-year contract with AMI that provided a monthly payment, and which was a nice supplement to what I was doing at the time, which was nursing. So after I became addicted with, competing in that first fitness show. So then I started competing in NPC and got to know more about the industry. And later, a few months later is when I signed with Team FMG, which I had a manager back then. It was the manager was J.M. Mannion for Team FMG. And that helped me through my competing career. When I earned my pro card, having a manager helped me to negotiate the contracts within the industry with supplements, companies, or apparel, or anything to do related to fitness. But there are times where you meet people, whether it's promoters or people in the industry, where there's opportunities that come your way too, but you have to be able to recognize that and make that connection and say, hey, well, this is a possible business venture that we can do, or collaboration or something. You have to be willing to want that for yourself, because these things don't just fall in your lap. Not everyone is lucky where they fall in your lap. You kind of have to really go out there and get it and be assertive. You can't be afraid to go ask for something. And I will tell you, there's so many times where I reached out to many companies, even before having a manager, and I was told, no. You don't have the social media following. You don't you don't really have any credibility at this point. You haven't won any titles. But I never gave up and I kept pushing. And eventually I signed with a supplement company. I had apparel company. I had all these contracts working up. And I did make a decision in my career where, okay, this is becoming more of my like main career type stuff. And I said, nursing is always going to be there for me. I had to make I can't be fully committed to patients at this time. So I kind of put that on the side and focus on the opportunities at hand that will not always be there.
That's definitely why I have one common trait out here, which is the middle agent, right? Because you're right, there are always opportunities, but you need to be aware of them. So if you're not in the loop of what's happening there, that's what the manager or the agent is going to be there and recognize it, right?
Absolutely. And so currently, to answer your question, I do not have a manager. I actually have enough experience over the years to kind of create relationships with people and to recognize, hey, what can we do here? There's so many opportunities to be had in the fitness industry that we can all, take advantage of. But you have to kind of be open-minded, come up with ideas and sometimes it's not like what you want right away, but you can build off of that. You may not make money on the first deal, but you build off of that and say, hey, this is my track record. This is my sales. This is what I, can provide for you. And on top of that, maybe your next contract will be, where you get payment from that. And to help you, a lot of questions I get from other athletes is how can I, make a career out of this?
I want to know, Lenda, how were your guest appearances organized, right? And how about your photo shoots? Who was making all these decisions and who was strategically positioning you under the light and under those conditions that, would bring out the best in your physique and the best in your value that you had as an athlete at that point?
Yeah, I really agree with what Janet said in regards to a manager or an agent. At the end of the day, you're the athlete, you're the person that you got to that place to win that show, and you know what it takes to get there. So you can't forget your foundation, and only you really know that. And so that was to me, that's so important. So you have to be able to make decisions on your own. So in regards to, for example, my manager, Steve Carroll, he was a hustler. He would he would have me doing guest appearances every single weekend if he could, because he was getting a percentage of it. But at the same time, he didn't really understand.
Let me ask you something there, because you said something very interesting. So you were getting money from guest appearances too, on top of the contractual money you were getting from this, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So that was extra income.
Yes.
And was this flying all over the U.S. or was this just where you lived locally?
It was flying all over the U.S. and it was also that was my first introduction to going to Europe and Russia and just amazing places throughout the world, pretty much. So you really do have to, as an athlete, you have to be smart. And if you're chasing the money, then you most likely, there's a good chance you're not going to win that Olympia, the next upcoming show, because you're tired.
All the traveling, like how many travels would you have per year, like a ballpark number?
A ballpark number, I would always try to limit it to 20 to 25 appearances within the year. And I quickly learned that prior to the Olympia, and at the time the Olympia was in November, and so I would take about 3 months, for sure 2 months without being on the road. The only time I would go on the road prior to the Olympia is if it was a situation where that appearance enhanced my career. It was something I could not pass up. I remember guest posing at the Mr. Olympia, and it was in, I believe it was in Finland. And it was the Mr. Olympia about 4 weeks prior. So that was just a benefit for me. And I could not pass up guest posing at the Mr. Olympia in Europe in front of IFBB judges. And so I didn't pass that one up.
Linda, so these guest appearances, were they guest posings as well, where you had to perform a routine with, with your muscular body, or we're talking about seminars sometimes where you didn't have to be, let's say, in a top shape or any of that?
Yeah, the majority at the time, they were actual guest appearances where you had to get on stage and perform. And so, for example, me guest posing at the Mr. Olympia, it was scary because I was 4 weeks out from the Olympia. And a lot of times, you ladies know as athletes, we don't really want to show our physiques off to people. You kind of, because you don't want to hear the outside noise, or you're ready, you're off, because we know when we're on and we know when we're off. And if you're off, you don't want to hear you're off. And if you're on, sometimes that's not, it's a good thing. But so, yeah, that's pretty much, yeah.
And I know that this is also division specific, but how are your guest appearances different, Janet?
So obviously with bikini, we're not necessarily doing like posing on stage, but guest appearances for us would definitely, include with speaking and giving those experiences or advice to other athletes or other competitors or just people out there who want to know. And also like we'll do, our posing routine, because that's very unique to our division to kind of show off. And we could do that, whether it's off season or on season. So our guest appearances could be, multifaceted in that manner. And I love being able to do the posing routines at my seminars for the other athletes, because they really want to know, in person, and have that engagement with them is in person is so much more meaningful than it is like doing the videos on social media. They can actually, see in person, like different little things.
And since you said that you have no more of an agent right now, how do you get the guest appearances? Do promoters reach out to you, or do you reach out to them and, offer to be there and offer the support to them?
Especially with winning the Olympia title, I've gotten a lot more requests for that. And also, when I go places for, for appearances, I think of, can I take advantage of this travel time to make a gym appearance, to have a seminar? What other ways can I take advantage of, just instead of just showing up for this appearance, I can take time to, teach or show other people or connect with them in person. So I may do some legwork on my own and reach out. Hey, do you guys want to come up and collaborate and do some kind of work together? And I think that's important to kind of like, not everyone. You won't always have that manager to say, hey, I booked you this and that. You got to do the work on your own to create that income, to create that money flow coming in.
We have a lot more questions for you guys because this is really getting interesting, but we're going to take a quick commercial break and we'll be right back in just a minute.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. Number one worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
And we're back with more questions for Linda Murray and Janet Leung. And the biggest thing that I think is the difference from both of what you guys experienced in your careers is social media. Social media these days makes things a whole lot easier. But Linda, you did not have that benefit on your side. Everything back then seemed to be photo shoots and magazines and appearances. So were you doing photo shoots nonstop just to have your image out there, to sell magazines? Give us the scoop on that.
Yeah. Well, what I learned quickly, like after my first Miss Olympia, when like suddenly now I'm being approached and I have this responsibility of photo shoots. On that first, the norm is back then is after a show, you go stuff your face and then you end up gaining weight, like as an amateur. That's like the immature way, right? And so you're not in position to do photo shoots, really. But I learned after my second Miss Olympia, the importance of me maintaining a certain condition and level of athletic, my look. And you do as many photo shoots as you can immediately after the Olympia. You prepare for it prior to your competition. And I always like to say that to even amateur competitors, especially now. I mean, you got with social media, but also schedule photo shoots, with a professional photographer, because it's so valuable, and you put a lot in the can and get a lot out there, and then you have that you can use throughout the year. So that was always my goal.
And so back then it was like, that's how, since we can't nowadays, we easily go on our phone, we scroll, we can look at what our top athletes are doing, have a true glimpse into their life. But back then it was all magazines. And also I had asked Alina, I said, now we get DMs, we get emails, we get text messages from fans. Somehow they find our numbers, which is kind of creepy. But back then you didn't have that. So was it just getting fan mail, like old
snail mail?
Snail mail?
Were you getting that at home?
Yeah. I got a lot of fan mail. We would get a lot of fan mail because the magazines, people would go out and get the magazines. They would put your address, your P.O. box. You knew to get a P.O. box. And I would get tons of mail from the military, because they loved the magazines and working out. And I would get a ton of mail also from guys in prison. And I had to, because they're in there and out, they've got all the time in the world and they're in their weight training.
Oh, wow.
And I would get tons of mail from them.
Wow.
And
was it positive or was it creepy?
Was it, you know what, they were pretty much, you get a small percentage that it was kind of creepy, but the majority, they were really interested in weight training, and they wanted the knowledge of, different exercises and how to develop your back or biceps. And so, yeah.
And did you write back, Linda?
Yes, I definitely would write back. And believe it or not, I still get mail from guys in prison.
Oh my goodness.
I do.
They don't have access to social media, so they got to still.
Yeah.
Janet, obviously it's a little bit easier for you to connect with your fans versus, what Linda had to do back in the day. But what's the easiest way that you find you connect well with your fans?
And do you get any DMs from prison?
That's pretty impressive, Linda, that you still get that. But I'll admit, I've had one letter from prison, someone in prison, but that was back in my Hooters days, and I did promotional. I was the calendar girl for that. So, and they had actually sent it to the store and not my house, thank God. So that was a surprise, but honestly, in my opinion, I think like back in the day in Linda's time, that's actually like a more meaningful thing to not be so accessible like we are today. Like Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, we are so at the fingertips of everybody across the world. It's so accessible. And can you really say, is that a great thing? I mean, when you are in the position, when you are Linda Murray, Olympia champion, should you be that accessible to have instant access to? Like, I kind of view it that like we're in a crazy times with social media, like anybody can instantly DM me.
That's a great point.
What do I do? It's how I choose to handle that, because I get flooded with all kinds of DMs or emails or what have you. But if you sit there and answer every single one, you don't know what you're getting yourself into, then you become like, it's like you create this like bond with every single person. And how, how do you manage that? So there's, for me, I have someone that helps me manage, like, whether it's business DMs versus someone who is, whether they're trying to ask for advice, and direct that in the direction that the way it needs to be handled. And then you get the crazy DMs that you're just like, oh, I
Just
can't.
delete and block,
Yeah.
delete and block, delete and block.
Luckily, they don't know that, like, you didn't see it, you know?
Yes. That's the best feature, right? You're like, oh, nope, didn't see it.
I think with like my first few experiences with Snapchat, like, I didn't know that all guys would be sending crazy pictures like that. And I'm like, do guys really do this? Like, they do. They still do. And I've talked with other pros and actually male pros, and they have told me that not only like in my position as a woman that guys send me nudes, that women will send the guys nudes as well.
There you know that.
Mind that that's still happens today, but I mean freely too, and they're trying to get your attention, and just some people on social media, they'll say the trolls, they'll say things really mean things like,
Did you say trolls?
Yeah.
Yeah.
like in the comments they'll say really mean things, and it's almost like they saying this so they get your attention.
Oh yeah,
a reaction.
They want to trigger you, definitely.
Just want that engagement with you, so it can be a great tool to actually connect with the people who are need advice, or they're really inspired by you, they have a story to share with you and that you can learn from them, but sometimes it's not necessary. It's got its cons.
So wait, that brings me to a point for you, Linda. Back then, I mean, with technologies these days, and everyone can snap crazy selfies and instantly send it, did you get that in your fan mail letters? Anything like naked photos?
Oh. Yeah, I want to know.
My. Let's see. As far as I may have received a couple of.
I may have
strange-
received.
Yeah.
That you're still
yeah.
hanging on to, apparently, because you delayed in that response. So I'm thinking you still have them.
Yeah, I would get some crazy stuff. I remember boyfriends being really upset. Like, what's this about? Like, why are you communicating with these people? And, so yeah, I got some strange stuff.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and when emails started, then that was my first time really interacting with like technology, the emails, when emails started, and then I got more of it with emails.
Oh yeah.
Oh, wow. So it's unavoidable, is what you're saying. It's been there.
Yeah, it's unavoidable. It's unavoidable. It really is.
Janet, you brought up a very good point, and I agree with you. It's this level of accessibility that we have through social media, but at the same time, it's kind of like hard to get away from it. Even let's say if you have an agent that separates those things, right? Because in the end of the day, if you want to network, if you want to sponsor, if you want to have contacts, in the end, they judge you by your social media, which is the level of involvement, which means that you have to go in there and do impressions and likes and all of those comments, right, on your profile.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely try to keep the most engagement on my social media, putting myself out there, whether it's the comments and responding. And that's so important to, make that engagement with other people, let them know, hey, I hear you, I see you, you are, they are a fan of yours, they are a follower of yours. And I believe that you should give them, something back. But then there's where you have to kind of like, okay, this isn't something that we really, need to respond to, or, okay, this comment is like completely inappropriate. We're going to have to just delete it. Like you have to have, the common sense, common knowledge to, all right, what to engage with and what not to.
Oh yeah. That's the way it goes. But nowadays, Linda, you have the social media as well that you take care of, right? You're quite active. You post a lot of pictures. You support the industry. So how was that transition from the way the promotion was made back in the day, and then emails, and then social media nowadays. How was that
Yeah.
for you?
Yeah, wow, so much said here that I really like agree with, and insight into like my transition. And I tell you, I remember when it first started, and when they had like, it was MySpace, and then they started with Facebook, and
Oh, I remember MySpace.
and part of what Janet was saying, you know, for me, I had it. It was pretty easy in that, you know, people would see me in the magazine, and they didn't have immediate access to me, and so that was a really comfortable place to be. When I learned of this whole new thing with followers and people being able to chime in and tell me what they think, and it's so much, I just thought, when I first learned of it, and I just thought, oh thank God, like I want no part of that.
Yeah.
Like,
It felt like
I thought I want no part of like that kind of like making myself like vulnerable and being involved in that. So
It pretty much felt like an intrusion, right?
yes, it was very much an intrusion for me. However, I realized, because in the beginning, I remember, I think Nicole Wilkins walked up to me. This was after Facebook, and she says, hey, do you hear there's this new thing called Instagram? And I was like, no. I'm already doing the Facebook. I don't know what this Instagram is. I don't want anything to do with it. And I really love Instagram. I do love it, and I do see the value in it. But I'm going to say that for me, because I'm really blessed to be a part of this new generation and the technology, and still be relevant in the industry in a different way. I learned that it was very important for me to take control of my social media. I could not ignore Facebook and TikTok and Instagram and all of that. Either I'm going to take it, because if I don't, someone's going to create an account with my name, and they will post and do all kind of stuff and get pictures out there and act as if they're me on Twitter. So I have a choice. Take control of my name. If I want to be a part of this industry today, then it is what it is. And so
It's very funny
I had
that
to
you
come
say
to
that.
terms with that.
It's very funny that you say that, Linda, because that's exactly the reason I have created my social media. Somewhat, I don't know, 15, 17 years ago, I created my first Facebook profile because there were already 2 or 3 out there of creepers making fake profiles, and my friends told me, so I was like, okay, I might as well go in there.
Yeah. You have no choice.
Yeah.
You have no choice.
Now,
It's the current media.
and
Yep.
Janet, do you feel like, especially with your life, and now that like you've grown up with the whole social media as your push to help kind of get your name out there, do you feel pressured that you need to show glimpses into your life, your family life, what you do for fun, your hobbies? Because everyone knows you as an athlete, but do you feel that pressure to expose more of your life, or have you felt like as you've gained popularity, you kind of become more closed in?
You know, I think definitely people want to know you as a person. They want to get very personal. They want to know what you eat. They want to know the moisturizer you use in the morning, your toothpaste. They want to know every little bit of you. And there is a lot of pressure that, okay, you know, and I have to sit and think, do I post this? Do I not post this? Is this too much? Is this, you know, for me, as a mother, I think there are some fine lines that, okay, this is something that I would like to, and I choose to keep private. And then there's other times where I think, okay, you know, I think that my followers would love to see this. They would love to want to know, how I train or something else, or, you know, if I'm doing something, people love to be entertained that way. They love going on and like watching the stories. What are they doing? And just kind of like, it's like watching a reality show, you know, through your favorite, you know, inspired person, whether it's me or your favorite athlete, your favorite, you know, someone that you idolize, you're watching like a show, like a reality show of them on social media. So people are entertained that way, and so it does create pressure. But I think as long as you manage it in a way that how you want to represent yourself to everybody, you still have to keep that in mind and keep yourself in check of everything. Because for me, I can't just sit there and post everything. I like to have some privacy of my, for my family, myself.
Yes, that's a very good point, because you can get too much, and I'm sure you guys have both experienced some crazy creepers, stalkers, so you got to walk that fine line of being out there but still pulling back. Got to have some privacy. We've got more questions for you guys. We're going to take a quick break though, and we'll be right back.
People always ask how I got here. I was willing to work just a little harder than everyone else, every damn day. If I can have hundreds of hours back, I'm gonna grab them. Spending hours prepping chicken, rice, and vegetables, F that. I rely on perfect nutrition. I rely on Trifecta.
And we're back after this commercial break. Linda, if you were to pinpoint the pros and the cons of the promotion back in your day, what would those pros and cons be?
I would say the pros definitely enhance your image, your brand, when you make time and you do the photo shoots and you interact with the promoters and the judges and you interact with the fans. It really builds your brand and your name and your personality, who you are. I would say the cons of it, of course, when you open yourself up and you're, I guess, exposing yourself and you're more, I guess, would say vulnerable, then I think that the cons could be definitely that it could affect your competition and you preparing for a competition, because the more you interact with people, then the more you're allowing them in. And whether it's a judge or whether it's a promoter or whether it's a fan and you're engaging, then you have more information. And so you have to take that into the place where go back to that place as an athlete and stay focused and go back to the drawing board, go back to what it takes to win the Olympia. So you need to have the ability to shut that out. And I do see where there are athletes that when they cross over, they turn pro, they win the Olympia, they're transitioning to that role. They lose sight of what it took to get there. And then they're a little bit too much all over the place, doing photo shoots all the time, constantly, with Instagram or, and so I think the cons definitely would be, you still have to be able to reel it back in and get back to the basics. And some have a hard time transitioning into that.
Actually, I have a small additional question to that. Did your agent or your sponsors dictate the way your body looked like during all these guest appearances? Did they tell you need to come in this kind of shape and you can be over this amount of pounds and so on and so forth? Who controlled the image you were presenting?
Yeah, definitely my manager. I had to be, a couple times told as far as my weight and to be able to maintain my weight throughout the year and said, you're not an amateur anymore. You are a professional. And it's just important. So, yes, I was told. I learned from that. And it did nothing but to help me.
And Linda, how many covers were you on total in your career? How many covers?
I believe I was probably on about 10 covers. And that's a lot in the scheme of when you think about a cover, there's 12 months in a year. So if I'm on the cover of Muscle and Fitness, I'm only going to be on there once in that year.
Yeah.
And if I'm on the cover of Flex, I'll be on the cover of Flex once that year. So I might have like several magazines that, I think one year where I was on the cover of Flex and I was also on the cover of Muscular Development, or the next year it was Muscle and Fitness and Flex. So you do the math, I would say, in that period of time, I'm going to say 10, a little bit more than 10.
That's awesome.
And that was huge.
Yeah.
To be on the cover, just massive, to be like on travel and walking in through the airport and there's me.
Yeah.
Isn't that cool?
Be in Alabama and Walmart. And that's me.
Oh, yeah.
That was really exciting.
Now, I know magazines are not like they are nowadays when, Linda was competing, but Janet, covers for you? How many?
I have, and that feeling, Linda, I can relate, because when it's like your dream when you get into this sport and you want to go all the way with it, to make a cover is like, you're like, man, you really feel like you made it, because you go anywhere in the airports, you see, there's my face. Like, it is the best feeling in the world. And I was so fortunate that I was able to make the cover of Muscle and Fitness, hers, and Fitness RX, and several others. I think mine right now is at 5. I just have a new one coming out, Strong Fitness Magazine cover. So I'm really excited about that. But, we are kind of phasing out of and it's harder, to make a cover because not many are publishing anymore. And so that's why there is a con for that for this generation, is that, there's not many opportunities to make a cover. So it's very special if you do. And these days you're kind of okay, how do you get anything close to a cover on social media, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But fortunately, there's covers all around the world too that I've been able to make. So that's always such a very honorable thing for me, and never take that for granted.
Yeah.
And Janet, I know that we already talked about one aspect of the social media being too accessible, but if you were to pinpoint out other ones, what are the difficulties of organizing, some of the major difficulties of organizing your own social media and your own promotion?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. It really is, especially among several platforms, because you do have Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, many others, and you want to be on many platforms, as many as you can, but also, it takes a lot of work to create the content, but also to create valuable content, not just anything. You want to be able to speak to your audience, and so it takes a lot of thought, a lot of preparation, and it is really a full-time job to be a content creator and an influencer. So for me, not only as an influencer, as an athlete, as a mom, there's so many hats that, I have to wear. But the social media does take a lot of work, and it is kind of you gotta, it is what it is this day and age. So if you don't do it, then you probably won't be as relevant, because people won't know who you are. That's what they go to every single day, just kind of like reading the news. So there are those kind of difficulties of, what kind of content do I make today? What does my audience want to see today? But you gotta be diligent with putting in the work. Just like that, it is a job, a full-time job, just like it is when you have to, prepare documents for your other job, in any other kind of career.
I feel like it seems like back in the day, having a manager, having an agent has now transpired into having someone who literally is a social media manager or a content developer. It feels like, and I don't know, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're paying someone to assist you, Linda, having a manager heavily benefited you in getting contracts, getting appearances, and then Janet, like you're saying, having someone manage all of your content and your social media and, answering the DMs, that's something it seems like you have to invest in.
It's one of each.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. You definitely have to make that investment, because, and like she said, there's so many platforms, and it's really difficult to be consistent. And consistency is important in social media, and then not just, being consistent at posting. Like, let's say if you post twice, you can't just post. I learned this. You just can't post and walk away from it.
Yeah.
There's so much going on. You can't even, like what I learned, I can't just go in and like. I would post, like, what does this mean? Like. And then I realized I was liking something. When I actually walked into that room of that like, there was a whole lot of drama going on. So it's a lot of work. And if you're responsible as far as your social media, you'll get someone to assist you, because that's the only way. You've got so many followers.
If I had to choose between like a regular manager, like in person, or a social media manager, I most certainly would choose the social media manager. Like, I think that is just more valuable these days to manage that process. And it covers a lot of areas on social media, but I would rather have that one.
Yeah.
If I was to look at the both situations, as you were both talking, this idea came into my mind, and then I just realized that I would say the main difference would be that back in the day, Linda, you were promoted and marketed as a superstar. That was kind of like untangible, right?
Yeah, an icon.
You were an icon. Nowadays, we have social media, and because of the nature of what we're doing, which is extremely physical, visual, therefore entertaining, this takes a toll from that perspective, where we are going out there with the social media, and our role is to entertain. It's not to be untouchable or unattainable, right?
Yeah.
We actually have to go to the people and be like, we are like you, we are here, and you can get like us. And these are the main differences, right, in these two trends.
Point.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you completely. And I think that, if I can compare the two of magazine versus social media, the magazines are still shot and people get to see you, and then they saw you, competing and maybe a few interviews. When I look at Instagram, there's definitely more pressure, and you're exposed and people really get to see you. However, I've noticed, because we get to interact with so many of the athletes, and I look at their Instagram or Facebook pages and I see their posts, then I also notice that there is a difference when I actually get to meet them in person, because I get the opportunity to meet all of these athletes, these stars. And the difference between someone like, for example, what I've noticed, like with Janet, I'm not just saying this because we're here having this conversation and you're here, Janet, but there's a difference between someone that wins the Olympia and they're posting and their image is out there, their brand, but yet when you meet them in person, they're not really, they're not that person that they're posting. They're showing them, working out and happy and all this other stuff, but then you walk up to them, or it's not that same person. And I can say that because usually people are very nice to me when I interact with them. I'm Miss Olympia. We're all coworkers. I'm not a fan. We're all fans, you know what I mean? But I get to really see the real side. And so I do see, in some cases, a difference in certain individuals. And I think that's the difference between being a champion that will go the long haul versus one that's just great at posting and putting out an image and that's not as accurate.
Yeah, or no depth to them. Obviously, it's nice to be able to see that they are a real person. They can be the celebrity status, but at the end of the day, Janet, you're a mom and you're a regular person. You have fun little quirks and hobbies, and it makes it more relatable for sure.
I think a good point is to make that on social media these days that there's so many, big names, and it's really hard to get yourself out there and be known as a big name or iconic. Like back in the day, it was like if you made the magazines, you were really looked up to and that you were untouchable. And it's really hard. It's very competitive on social media these days to even stand out. So it's really hard to get to that point. And for a lot of people, they're like, well, how do I get, the most likes, or how do I get to become, with all these followers? And for me, honestly, I've always kept it the same, that you should always remain authentic of who you are. Don't ever go on social media, try to be something that you're not, just to gain followers. Because Linda, like you said, when you meet somebody in person, you're like, wow, they are not all that they are supposed to be,
Yeah.
So I would just say, remain authentic, remain who you are, and, let people know that's who you are. Don't change from that, because it's flooded out there. It's there's dime a dozens of, people doing crazy things just to get attention. And I think it's more valuable when they meet you in person. They're like, wow, you really are more than I expected, from your social media. So that's very meaningful to me.
Janet, I love that message. That message of authenticity is extremely important, and thank you for saying that. And I want to thank you, ladies, for being here with us today, because you have given us some very important and valuable information between the days in the past and the nowadays, and there's obviously a difference in there. So thank you for being here with us and sharing your knowledge and your experience with us. And we're looking forward to having you next with us. Janet, I'm sure really soon. Linda, you're going to be here right next to me or next to Whitney. Guys, thank you for being here with us today, and we'll catch you on our next episode of FemFlex Friday.